Kirby's Adventure was released in 1993, a follow-up to the acclaimed treasure Kirby's Dream Land. I grew up playing this game on my NES and spent countless hours on it, trying to beat it as fast as I could and 100% it. Well now, it's time for older me to add some challenge to this game, so this video we will be seeing if I can beat Kirby's Adventure with a DDR pad as a controller. My gaming setup is pretty simple. A Cobalt Flux DDR pad is connected to my PC, some ballet bars that are used to assist with balance, and a program called Anti-Micro. Anti-Micro lets me turn controller button inputs into keyboard inputs, and as for the button layout, I'll let Streamer Me explain that. This is the B button, this is the A button. Both of the front buttons are the start button, and then the top left and bottom right are the select button. The first level, Vegetable Valley, is seen as the tutorial level, showing you some of the enemy variations that you'll see and as few difficult jumps as possible. That being said, fun. Thankfully after this, I get the first Maxim tomato of the game to fully refill my health and finish this first stage. The next few stages weren't too awful, with some near-death experiences and some actual death experiences. Luckily, at the end of every level, you can potentially get 1-ups if you jump at the right time and make your way up to the top of these clouds. In 1-4, I get my first Hyper Candy, granting full invincibility to me and killing anything that I touch, and I grab my first 1-up power-up of the game and finish this stage as I move on to the first level boss of the game, Wispy Woods. Normally with Wispy, you would inhale the apples that drop from the tree and shoot them at him. But during the Hyper Candy in 1-4, I inhaled a sword enemy, so we used that to make quick work of Wispy Woods and chop him down for the first piece of the Star Rod. The tutorial level is officially over. The next level is Ice Cream Island, with new enemies and a new terrain, water. The first stage had me a bit jumpy still with the controls, but it was eventually finished without too many problems. Stage 1-2 introduces a new mid-boss, Grand Wheelie. Mid-bosses have a pretty common attack pattern. They do 2 big motions and then give you something to hit them with. These motions can be dashing across the screen at you, jumping, or in some boss cases, hovering. However, for Grand Wheelie, we ignored all of these mechanics and won using Tornado, and then zoomed off to the end of the stage keeping Tornado fully intact, which is the only time an ability will ever make it through an entire level. Stage 2-3 introduces us to a new type of room fight, the Meta Knights.
Oh no!
These enemies have a collective health bar similar to a boss, and killing each of them individually will dent this health bar. While there are 4 Meta Knights in total, only 3 will show up this early in the game, which are Mace, Axe, and Trident. Axe behaves similarly to the cutter enemy, while Mace swings his mace around and throws it horizontally in your direction, and then it will return back to him.
And Trident wants to pretend you're a toaster.
A couple of spawn bamboozles occurred for a couple of quick deaths, but third time's the charm, and we defeated the Meta Knights for the first time to move on and eventually finish this stage. At this point, I've encountered a number of instances where the button layout I originally had planned was working against me.
Come on. What?
The game was designed to
No!
move mostly to the right, with your defensive ability of inhaling having a wide range of effect. On top of that, you can breathe while jumping, making the inhaling more important. My initial control setup was getting jump right next to the right arrow, meaning that I needed a larger range of motion in order to defend myself. So after some deliberation, I simply swapped the A and B buttons. This had an unintended result, which required me to also swap where the select button input was. However, this seemed to be a good sign as I finished the stage with a couple of bruises, but no deaths from this button swap. I call that a win. I did want a new power-up, so I went to the museum to grab fire and then headed over to the arena. The arena is a minigame of sorts that gives you a mid-boss that moves significantly faster than its in-stage counterpart, and once you kill it, you're able to take their ability and also heal to full with a Maximum tomato that drops from the heavens. It seems the control swap did some good work as I made it to the end of the world with another 1-up in my possession and no death. The boss of Ice Cream Island is a pretty easy boss, Paint Roller. This fight just needed him to draw fast-moving pictures such as the baseball, the wheel car, the Waddle-Dee, or a fake Kirby, or the parasol. We only received 2 bonks from him before we got back the second piece of the Star Rod. Level 3, which is Butter Building, is a vertical level complete with a bunch of stages that have all sorts of floors and towers. In 3-1, we fight the mid-boss, Mr. TikTok, but honestly, Stone is so much more useful than 3 uses of Mike, so we kill him and destroy the evidence. From here, we make our way to the first secret switch of the game. These switches reveal hidden parts of the current level and contribute to the overall percentage of the game's completion. Since we want to 100% Kirby's Adventure, we're going to pop the switch and then finish this stage. Stage 2 wasn't too difficult, but it did have a place where there are 2 stone enemies that are in close proximity. On a normal controller, it isn't too difficult to get these 2 to stand close to each other so you can eat them for the rare UFO power for the rest of the level. But on a DDR pad, I don't recommend it. So we skip trying to get the UFO and take sword as a consolation prize and move on. Wait, did I say move on? I meant lose sword, take wheel, lose a 1-up, and immediately die. After regaining our resolve, we get that 1-up back and then enter the next room to fight a new mid-boss, Bugsy. This stag beetle enemy will grab you if he touches you either on the ground or in the air and backdrops, suplexes, or RKOs you to death. We get hit 5 times, but eventually we do kill him and end the stage. The next stage has nothing of real consequence, but stage 3-4 has another battle with the Meta Knights. To further cement how great of an idea the A and B button swap was, I defeat them flawlessly and finish the stage not long after that. Here, I take a small break and try my foot at the minigame Quick Draw. In this minigame, you are in a round-based face-off against 5 enemies, and the first one to draw their weapon after the game says to fire lives. If you press the button too early, you're given a foul, and you're only allowed 2 fouls, so it's all about timing and reaction. The sign on the cactus to the left shows the number of milliseconds that passed when the first person made the shot. The University of British Columbia posted an article saying that it takes your brain 0.17 seconds longer to send a signal to your feet than to your hands. Combine this with the neuropathy I still feel from chemo, well... Stage 3-5 has nothing of importance except the mid-boss Bonkers, who gives us the immensely important hammer ability, which we will take all the way to the secret in stage 3-6. Here, I get a bit scared seeing as the next stage is the boss fight of Butter Building, so I take a break hoping for a free 1-up or 3 from a minigame that I loved playing as a kid, Egg Catcher. In this minigame, you press the B button to catch eggs and let go so Kirby blocks the bombs being thrown. I don't succeed. Next up are the bosses Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright. These guys take turns with one being on the ground and the other one being up in the air. And the first fight goes about as expected. My next attempt goes really well, with me clearing out Mr. Bright in 1 turn and eventually finishing off Mr. Shine for that elusive 3rd Star Rod piece. We enter the next level, Grape Garden, and try our luck at the crane game, where you try to pick up a Kirby plushie and get 1 life for the small one and 2 lives for the fat one. Seeing as this didn't need too much reaction time from my stupid feet, we get both fat Kirbys for a solid 4 lives before we continue the adventure. Stage 4-1 starts off pretty simply, and we find ourselves in a starry room where we can absorb the rare UFO power-up. With this power-up, the rest of the level is a breeze, and we clear through a bunch of blocks and enter a secret door for another switch. Stage 4-3 has 2 secret rooms, but only 1 secret switch. The first secret comes from lighting a fuse and quickly hopping into a cannon before the fuse reaches it, which will shoot you to another room for some goodies. In the case of this stage, the goodies are a 1-up. I encounter and enter the wrong door, which requires me to finish the level, taking a few ego bumps along the way, but I return to the level to get to the switch door. And because we've already finished this level, we can enter the pause menu and choose to leave the level early. From here, I wanted an actual power-up before entering the next stage, but the museum on this level offered some questionable sacrifices to Kirby's palate. Both of these are really tempting offers, but no. Thus, I went to the arena hoping to fight someone to give me a useful ability and oh no. After a nail-biting experience, I kill Arena Bugsy, and I was standing right on top of the door and instinctively hit up to try and fly, so I ended up leaving the arena, losing the worthless power-up, and losing the Maxim Tomato. Not wanting to attempt this again and have my heart rate hit triple digits, I opt to enter the next stage and fight a new mid-boss, the Rolling Turtle. This boss is a lot like Bugsy, except when the turtle touches you, he doesn't just give you the rock bottom, he yeets you into the wall. We finish him off and make our way to stage 4-5. Nothing too bad here, except for another battle with Meta Knights. Here, the Javelin Meta Knight appears, and boy, does he make his appearance known. Come closer. We finish the stage off after another battle with the Meta Knights, and an unfortunate death to a doctor's worst nightmare. After a fight with Mr. TikTok on stage 4-6, we find ourselves in another dark room, but this one has a secret door. Here we pop the secret switch and proceed to the end of the stage, and make our way towards Grape Garden's boss, the Spiky Cloud Kracko. This boss is honestly a cakewalk. You eat high jump, you use high jump, you take Star Rod piece. Entering Yogurt Yard, I was starting to feel pretty good. So entering stage 5-1,
What?
Okay, I didn't really want high jump anyway, so I'll just go over here. So I continued through hoping to put these cannons behind me, and there's a door down there. Okay, time to go prep to go under the clouds nice and easy and enter the door, where we'll find a 1-up and 2 stones. 2 stones, when eaten together, mean the UFO ability. So we just need to get the enemies to line up, inhale them, and then...
No!
Thankfully, there's something for us to salvage in this stage, as there's a door below this fake-out block floor that leads to another secret switch. One poorly timed freeze later, and we're out of the first stage of Yogurt Yard. The next couple of levels come with relative ease,
Albeit with a few setbacks.
timing.
Okay, let's go. Oh.
But thankfully, a flawless clearing of the spike well with Parasol fully intact.
Stage 5-4 has another battle with the Meta Knights that I yet again defeated flawlessly.
Uh-oh.
Before getting a secret switch hidden in a waterfall doorway, and we finish the level out. Stage 5-5 has a cannon that leads to a secret switch, but it requires some trickery to pull off. There's a fire enemy on the ground that is needed to light the fuse, but a high jump enemy that is needed to clear the blocks on the way to the cannon. With a normal controller, this isn't too much trouble, but with a DDR controller, there was a bit more coordination that was needed. So after 5 minutes of trial and error, I grabbed the high jump ability to clear out the blocks, released the ability, absorbed fire, lit the fuse, and flew up to the cannon, landing just in time to be launched into the sky and onto the secret switch. Our last major hurdle is Fire Lion, so let's just ignore what happened along the way and finish the stage. Stage 5-6 was pretty uneventful, except for finding this room that I remember haunting my tiny brain 20 years ago. I made sure to put a pin into this room later, as I know that I'll need the hammer ability for it. Yogurt Yard's boss has been my biggest worry thus far, as I had been tricked by him countless times before. To prepare for the battle, I shopped around for some power-ups both in arenas and the museum, and ultimately landed on laser as the safest option. Then I started the fight with Heavy Mole. Heavy Mole's gimmick is the screen constantly scrolls to the right and randomly goes up and down, with Heavy Mole digging a tunnel on the way. If you don't keep up with him when he goes up or down, the game counts this as out of bounds and you die. If you don't keep up and you get pinned by a chunk of rock on the left side of the screen, you'll get squished and die. I start this fight out as cautiously as I could, firing laser at Heavy Mole and whittling him down. If you lose your ability, or you simply didn't start the fight with one, on occasion he fires out missiles from his center that you can inhale and shoot back. Or, if you pay attention to Kirby, these missiles have an ability. Well, absorbing that ability activates Heavy Mole's trap card, because that ability is sleep. If you use it, you lose control of Kirby like you were Jigglypuff in Smash Bros, so don't eat this. Just shoot the missiles back at Heavy Mole while keeping up, and you'll beat the boss and claim the 5th piece of the Star Rod for your troubles. Orange Ocean's first 2 stages have a secret switch in them. The first one needs some fancy footwork that my brain isn't ready for. Granted, my brain was also not ready for swimming either. The second stage has a switch hidden under some ice that needs hammer to break through. Thankfully, the game gives us 2 spark enemies here, and 2 sparks mixed together make a hammer.
And what do we do to this nail?
We smash that nail like you should smash the like and subscribe button.
Then we hit the secret switch and tornado our way to the end of the stage.
It was here that I put 2 and 2 together that I can get hammer here and use it in the previously completed 5-6. So I re-entered 6-2, made my way all the way through the stage to the 2 sparks to get hammer, and exited the stage. Then went back to 5-6 and...
Oh, no.
Okay, so I went all the way back to get the hammer again and...
Oh, come on.
Okay, one last time we go back to get hammer and...
Oh my god.
Thankfully, I recover hammer and decide to fly over everything. We bop the switch in 5-6 and exit early, and then head on to 6-3 where we can finally put the long and arduous journey of getting hammer behind us and...
Yo, I'm so dumb. There's the hammer right here.
We take hammer from Bonkers anyway, because there's a secret on this stage as well. A door hidden behind the bomb block leads us to yet another door where there's a cannon underwater. Fire abilities aren't usually usable underwater, however, every time you absorb an ability, Kirby plays an animation of it. The animation isn't a dud, the effect will still occur. So in the case of the fire ability, Kirby will always play the animation no matter where he is, and the fire ability will still go into effect. With that in mind, we inhale fire, swim to the floor, and absorb fire, and then quickly swim our way back into the cannon to blast off to the secret switch. We finish the stage off and then make our way to 6-4. This stage has nothing of note other than a secret switch hidden in an underwater area. You know that this spot is suspicious because it's one square too far into the wall.
In 6-5, we are once again reminded to never go swimming so soon after eating.
No.
And we eventually happen upon the second hardest cannon in the game. The fuse and the cannon are both located in separate pits. We need to use fire once again to light the fuse, then fly up and out of the pit, up a hill, and then go back down into the second pit and make it into the cannon on time. 10 minutes and a couple of lives later, and we make it into the cannon and hit the switch before promptly finishing the level. The final stage of Orange Ocean has, you guessed it, another secret switch near the start of the stage. One would think that you could melt ice blocks with fire, but, well...
Okay.
So I was ready to put a pin in this and remember it for later until I entered the next room. This room has UFOs flying around it, so I absorbed the first one that came at me, almost lost it immediately, and then went to the ice wall. With UFO, when you lightly tap the B button, UFO does a beam attack. When you hold the B button for longer periods of time, the UFO will yield different results, from laser to 1 star to 2 stars. 2 stars is more than enough to plow through this ice wall and boot the secret switch inside. We continue through the level and fight 2 Mr. Frosties before we come to the final showdown with the group of Meta Knights. The ice floor of this arena proves to be my worst enemy as I lose the fight with the final Trident Knight.
I ran into that one.
I win the fight the second time around, and then we enter the boss that I had been dreading. The leader of the Meta Knights, Meta Knight. The fight with Meta Knight forces you to pick up the sword ability for a one-on-one duel. My first attempt was a bit experimental. But what I did learn is that the iframes when hitting Meta Knight can be abused. So for my second attempt, I flew around, and if he left me enough time to line it up, I puffed out all my air, dropped down, hit him with the spinny slash on the way down, and then reinflated back up before his hitbox could come back to exact revenge. Enough of this abuse, and I acquired the 6th piece of the Star Rod, baffled, breathless, and with seriously sweaty palms, which is odd considering they weren't even doing that much work. Now we've moved on to Rainbow Resort, the final batch of stages. Stage 1 was uneventful, but does have a secret switch that needs a couple of abilities to get through, but my brain wasn't ready to think about it, so I put a pin in this for later. That doesn't mean that the gears weren't turning at one point when this happened. Stage 7-2 is the Tower of Pain, where you'll face off against all of the mid-bosses on your way up the tower. So I took the easier route, fighting 7 mid-bosses on the way up. In the Bugsy room, a member of Twitch chat redeemed a onesie redemption, so you get to see me in my Kirby onesie glory. And if you want to come mess with me as I play games on a DDR pad, my Twitch is also in the description. I forgot if there was a secret or not, but that didn't keep me from pulling a Tom and Baratheon to go exploring. The next few stages were almost uneventful, and then we made it to the cannon in stage 7-5. This cannon was a nightmare that required you to light the fuse, zoom through a tiny tunnel to a cannon on the other side, not even a screen's distance away. With a normal controller, this isn't too difficult, using the fireball nearby to speed through both the fuse and a couple of these platforms. After 15 minutes of attempts and a snack break, the trick was discovered. Using fire from the platform above and just 2 well-timed slides from the top of the floor gave us enough time to slide into the cannon's DMs and get launched to 5 1-ups as we successfully navigate the last cannon in the game. Entering the final stage of the game, we see an homage to Kirby's Dream Land in a black and white level, complete with a nice kick of nostalgia on top of this game's nostalgia. There's a secret in the final room that one would expect to be right here. There's a black space, there's a missing pillar, it's painfully obvious the secret is right in view. But nah, it's in a black door hidden in the sky right below the moon. We bop the secret switch and end the level as we look forward towards the future, any last secret switches we missed, any minigames not completed, and the final boss fight door. We head back to 7-1 and realize that we need Beam to clear some of the blocks above our head, and Fireball to break down the last block wall that Beam just won't clear out. While I did know that there was a Fireball in this same room, I also didn't know there was a beam directly below the Fireball spawn, so I went back to 1-1 and absorbed the first enemy that we encounter in Kirby's Adventure before making my way back to 7-1. I clear a path through the blocks, eventually make my way up to the top door, and then bop the secret switch. I then head on over to Orange Ocean for the final secret switch in my way. This was the one with the really weird floor that I thought needed a hammer. So I entered 6-3, got hammer from Bonkers, and entered 6-1, where I safely made my way to the screen right before the room that I needed to be in. The study from the University of British Columbia reminded me my feet are not my hands, and I end up getting hit almost right before the door was in sight, and I was about to resign myself to going back to 6-3 for another hammer when I had an idea. Throughout this journey, I've absorbed multiple enemies that gave abilities through the mix outcome. 2 stones was a UFO. 2 sparks was a hammer. The platform to the left of the door had fireball going around in circles with a spark hopping right below it. The platform to the right of the door had a fireball and a fire enemy. With my big gamer brain, I decided these enemies were here for a design reason, so I hopped to the right, absorbed fireball and fire enemy at the same time to earn wheel. As we saw with my previous failure of brick bridges and wheel can break floor-like items. So I entered the doorway with wheel and smashed that stupid brick and hit the final secret switch in my way. A quick side note, I looked it up and while I was recording this, it turns out that there was a mix table by a user named Cywux that shows all the mix combinations, and my design theory was actually right. Fireball plus fire makes wheel, and fireball plus spark makes hammer, both of which could have done the trick here. With only the mini games left, I caught some eggs, won some cranes, and stomped the hell out of... before making my way to the boss room of Rainbow Resort, King Deed with 24 lives in stock. Deed has 6 attacks total. 2 of the 3 attacks that don't do you any good happen when he starts running at you without a hammer. He will either tackle or breathe you in similarly to how you murdered all of his friends to get to this point. Simply jumping over him or flying over him will neutralize both of these attacks. If he successfully breathes you in, he will spit you out as a star and you'll take a hit of damage when you hit the end of the screen. The 3rd attack that doesn't help you is his inflate or float. While he's a balloon, he'll chase you around for 5 seconds before deflating and then continuing his attacks. The 3 attacks that do help you are a high jump that gives you 2 stars on either side to use on him, a single hammer swing, or a multitude of hammer smashes, both giving a star to use against him. After a few minutes of remembering how to fly and not get hit, Deed is defeated and Kirby is on his way to putting the star onto the Fountain of Dreams. But hold on, Deed's trying to stop us because he knows something that we don't. Nightmare was trapped in the Fountain of Dreams and we just let him out. Deed rightfully blames us, and then breathes us and the Star Rod in and launches us into the air for the real final boss fight against Nightmare. This first fight against Nightmare, and he fires stars in various patterns, moves around in a figure 8 pattern from time to time, and also fires sonic waves at us. At 2 parts of the battle, he'll even come in close for a hug. As we start getting to the brighter clouds, the 4-star attack will start to hone in on Kirby instead of just going across the screen. This was my feared bottleneck of a boss because this boss fight is on a time limit. If Nightmare is not killed before the ground shows up, then he flies away and we become an IHOP staple.
Pancakes!
We successfully land the final hit a few seconds before he's about to fly away, and then we can move on to his final form, on the moon. When Nightmare does attacks, a funny bit of static shows up near the center of his body that can take damage from the Star Rod. While you deal more damage if you shoot a star at it, jumping into the static also does deal some damage. The moves that we do care about Nightmare doing are the following. He opens his cloak and shoots out stars in a pattern. He also swoops from one side of the screen to the other and then drops down to be in attacking range. He will either show his entire weak point and start firing stars horizontally across the screen, or he'll hold the cloak up and shoot stars diagonally. The final move he does is a tornado corkscrew. While you will mostly see these be right side up, there will be certain times where he will be goofy and go upside down. Enough shooting and bonking, and we finally deal the final hit, and Kirby's adventure has been 100% completed on a DDR pad. As the credits roll, I can breathe a sigh of relief and look forward to my next adventure with this DDR pad. If you want to see any games done using this controller, comment below or come join my stream and let me know what you would like to see completed. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I can't wait to tackle my next game.